The 15th annual Brics Summit is all set to be held between August 22 and August 24. The timing of the summit comes at a time when high tensions escalate between Beijing and Washington, and South Africa has to abide by the International Criminal Court against Russian President Putin. The Brics Summit, which is scheduled for the next month in Johannesburg, South Africa, has seen the member nations seek the possibility of adding other global nations. Interestingly, China has persistently advocated for the expansion of the BRICS whenever it has met with the member nations. China's move to expand the BRICS alliance has drawn the interest of the global West. Notably, the factions lie amongst the BRICS nations, only showing resistance to where China is leading BRICS. South Africa and Russia, a neutral approach. Interestingly, the South African government is of the opinion that it supports the addition of different members but doesn't necessarily oppose the expansion of the alliance for its own good. Russia's head of the Council on Foreign and Defense Policy, Mr. Fyodor Lukyanov, said Russia at large is in favor of BRICS expansion, but that's without any huge enthusiasm. It is following another lead. It won't block any decisions. China's foreign ministry take the prepotent problem. No doubt BRICS is a counterweight to the reliance and polarized order of the West on the UN, but a direct challenge to the West will not be present, at least for emerging economies like Brazil and India. Last year, the Chinese Foreign Ministry responded to Bloomberg about how last year's BRICS meeting authorized the expansion of the membership. Adding more members to BRICS is the political consensus of the 5 BRICS countries, said the ministry. But are all the nations on the same page? Or is this Beijing's voicing the opinion of others when in reality it's not? How does China's take affect India and Brazil? The Financial Times report how geopolitically China unbalances the club. There is no denying how China is a dominant economic, technological and military power that goes on neck-to-neck rivalry with the USA. There lies the concern that the alliance is gradually positioning itself as a counterbalance to the USA and the European Union, something that both India and Brazil don't see as healthy. And it's evident how Brazil seeks European customers by finalizing its trade bloc Mercosur deal with the European Union. On similar grounds, India is a member of the Strategic Security Dialogue named Quad, which seeks to contain the increased Chinese military and economic aggression in the Asia-Pacific. India and Brazil on the same page. It is visible that 2 of the biggest members of the BRICS have shown reservations. Brazil has expressed concerns over the rapid expansion of the BRICS due to the potential implication it carries. India, on the other hand, has resisted China's proposal for expansion with a different stance. It has formulated the draft rules which would decide when and how the other nations could mark their entry into the BRICS membership. As emphasized by one of the officials, India has time and again advocated for considering adding emerging nations like Argentina and Nigeria into the alliance rather than autocratic nations like Saudi Arabia, whom China wants to desperately bring into the alliance given the oil and energy security it adds to the alliance. Brazil has come up with its own proposal, which makes more sense. One of its top officials has stated that BRICS needs to consider the nations on the basis of 2 categories: partner countries and observer nations. As per the plan, the new nations will undergo these status changes before becoming full-fledged members of the group. Apparently, Brazil has shown support for adding Indonesia, which India too supports. Brazil and India against the Chinese hegemony in the NDB. It's not the first time that India and Brazil have opposed China. Remember, in the 2 years of negotiations to create the BRICS Development Bank, the stumbling block was neither the lack of resources nor commitment, but China alone. Back then, in 2014 only, the Chinese wanted a bigger share in the bank. The motive was to assert greater influence in the $100 billion BRICS new development bank. In the end, somehow, Brazil and India prevailed in maintaining equal capital composition, such as being the Chinese supremacy, that Brazil had to constrainedly withdraw its request to grant the first presidency of the NDB in favor of India. No wonder the Chinese dominate the NDB with headquarters in Shanghai. So what could be the BRICS way ahead? If Beijing forces other fellow nations to get away with a balanced and non-aligned approach and join the Chinese bloc, it will only make Brics lose its significance and the nations their diplomatic sphere. Senior economist Dan Kluriak makes an interesting statement. As per him, when you have a group of economies that are emerging markets with an ambition to become advanced economies, but only the largest one is on track, then you don't have a cohesive club. It's high time the BRICS nations decide on their potential and build on the support for developing economic ties, not let it become a yes-men group like the G7, heavily dictated by one hegemonic power, you know who. Plus, when was the last time you saw a permanent member added to the UNSC, United Nations Security Council? Long ago? Well, the same applies to BRICS in order to concentrate power in few hands, at least for some time. Founded in 2009 as an economic heavyweight alliance, BRICS members constitute 42% of the world's population, 18% of global trade, and 23% of the global GDP. The need for mutual economic agreement and the potential establishment of a common currency is what could be said the need of the hour, not the sole Chinese interest. It needs to be known that BRICS face the challenge of containing China's right to control institutions that were supposed to give each other an equal voice. Keep watching the pamphlet.